Good afternoon. If you've joined us and can hear me okay, we're going to get started in just a few minutes. So just bear with us for another minute or two. We're going to allow some additional people to trickle in. I see people joining us as we speak. So just sit tight, everyone. We'll probably get started about two or three after 2. So bear with us for just a few more minutes. Thanks. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started about 3 after 2. I see some additional people joining the webinar. So just, again, bear with us for another minute or two, and we're going to aim to get started at about 3 after. Thanks. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. It looks like we still have a few people trickling in, which is good to see. If someone could actually just quickly type into the question box or click the raise hand tool just to confirm that you can hear me okay. Thanks for that, David. Appreciate it. Cool. So by the way of introductions, just wanted to take a second to introduce ourselves. So the voice you're hearing now, I'm Dan Petito. I am an inside account manager here with Design Point Solutions. I am joined by John Shuey. John is an application engineer here with Design Point. He is also our internal SOLIDWORKS Inspection expert. John, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you. Hello, everybody.
Cool, cool, cool. So yeah, very cool. Just again, thank you very much, everybody, for taking some time out of your afternoon to join us. Happy Friday. And just a couple things. Obviously, we've introduced ourselves. If I could ask that any questions that you guys have moving forward between now and the end of the webinar, please write them down or take note. We'll take some time once we wrap up some of the technical demonstrations. We'll take some time to answer your questions. Just to not disrupt the flow of the webinar. So we appreciate your patience there. And just in terms of the agenda and what we're going to roll through today, a couple things. So kind of going to walk through just what the typical inspection process is now. Those of you involved in performing first article inspection, I'd imagine you're no stranger to that process. Certainly going to match that process up with the process included and what the kind of application looks like within SOLIDWORKS Inspection. So John, obviously going to walk through some of the technical aspects of SOLIDWORKS Inspection. We're going to create a balloon drawing using SOLIDWORKS Inspection 2015 Addin. John's also going to walk us through and create an actual inspection report using SOLIDWORKS 2015. And just kind of discuss and demonstrate an actual part inspection process, obviously matching that up against the backdrop of using something like SOLIDWORKS Inspection 2015. So John puts together some cool stuff to walk through. We appreciate you joining us again this afternoon. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just kind of hand the controls over to John, and he's going to walk us through some things that he's put together. And just once again, any questions that you guys have moving forward, please just hold off on them until the end of the webinar, and John and I will carve out a few minutes to get any of those questions answered for you. So once again, thank you for joining us, and going to hand the controls over to John. He's going to be piloting the technical walkthrough this afternoon. Thanks, John.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at a PDF here. There it is. Okay, so I have a drawing here, and it's been designed. I sent it out, and we're bringing it back in now, and we want to know if it's correct. So the typical process is someone's going to print out a drawing like this, and they're going to set numbers next to, or assign a number to each dimension on here, and it's going to end up looking something like this. So typically this is hand done. It's a really, really long process, but I'm going to show you, with the add-in for SOLIDWORKS, this is going to be an extremely, extremely quick process to add all these balloons. And then once someone's gone ahead and actually, created the balloon drawing, they're going to go ahead and create a report where it's going to list out, the value of something, and then the balloon number assigned to it, and then the upper and lower limit based on the tolerances, and then all kinds of other information can be listed, such as the inspection method, and then you'll have some kind of results column in there. So once this report is done and we have the balloon drawing, what we'll do is we'll print both those out. We'll give them to our inspector, and he's going to go ahead and measure the part based on our report, and he'll fill it out, something to this effect. And once again, maybe someone might write those in, or maybe they'll type them in Excel. But that's typically the process right now for most people. It's very very manual, all hand drawn, those types of things. So let's take a look at what this process is like, using the add-in for SOLIDWORKS 2015. So I'll go ahead and jump to SOLIDWORKS here, and this is the drawing we just saw. And it's the add-in is just like any other add-in. I can go to my add-ins and go ahead and turn that guy on, and I get a tab on my command manager, and I'm going to go ahead and start a new inspection project. So the first thing it's going to ask me in 2015 is, for a project template. For right now, we're going to ignore this, and we're just going to start bare bones, with no template. And I'll come back and I'll talk about that later. So when we start a new inspection project, it's going to ask us for, all kinds of pertinent information that we, might want on our drawing, or on our inspection report, such as part number, part name, revision, all that other stuff. I can go ahead and type those in, or actually I can go ahead and hit that button and actually start linking these directly to custom properties. So all this is directly linked, like a lot of other things, within SOLIDWORKS. So go ahead and grab the revision. I can go ahead and add some more information here, like the vendor. Maybe I'll add a job number in here as well. And for the most part, this is just, right here it's just telling me, do I want an auto balloon, and that's what I want. And then there's some sampling information I can put down here as well. So I'll go ahead and hit the next arrow. Here's where I'm actually going to tell it, what things I want to balloon, dimensions obviously, but I can choose, inspection only ones, basic, the kind of notes that I want to include, hole call-outs, surface finishes, all those things. And jump to the next window, and this is where I set my default tolerances. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on my tolerance block right here and make sure all these match up. So let's see, I want that one to be plus or minus 0.2, and this one's going to be 0.13, and this one's going to be 0.003. And then I go ahead and set my angle, and I'm just going to worry about the, about no decimal place there. So my default tolerance is all set up, and I'm pretty much essentially good to go. So I'll go ahead and hit the green check, and here's where the magic really happens. We're going to see it goes around and automatically, adds balloons to every single dimension, or essentially every single dimension on my drawing, and then so we can see it in the screen over on the right, and then over on the left we have our characteristic tree where it lists out, all the corresponding characteristic with its balloon number. So the nice thing is, if I click on a characteristic over here on the left, it highlights it over here on the view screen, and then if I actually click on like a dimension, it highlights it over in the characteristic tree. So that's kind of a nice cool thing there. So then the kind of stuff we're going to see over here in the characteristic tree, obviously the balloon number. We can see the quantity if if it has more than one quantity right here. It's going to obviously list the value, and like in this case, it recognizes that this is an angular dimension. This is a a radial dimension, so it's recognizing all that stuff for us. And the other big thing here is it's going to recognize let's see, we are on this R20 dimension, and so this doesn't have a special tolerance like this particular, symmetric dimension. So we see it recognizes a symmetric dimension, but then this one doesn't have a tolerance on it. Well, based on our default tolerances, it knows to, to assign that there to right there for us. So that's really great. And then another thing I like to point out too is, we even have properties where it can show us, what sheet it's on and even the particular view. So, lots of really, really great information that it's picking up here. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at my, the first thing that it ballooned right here is these notes. This is actually driven by the note extraction criteria, which is, if I click on my create inspection project, so this is what we saw initially when we were creating our inspection project, and here's what I was talking about, extraction criteria. So this is the default criteria. It uses special characters and wildcards to filter out only things we want ballooned. And a great explanation about how this works is included in the help documentation, and design point support can also help you understand it as well. So we take a look at balloon 1, and based on the criteria it picked out notes. I really don't need that, so it's really easy just to turn it off. And I don't need the interpret drawing in accordance with blah blah blah. I don't need that either, so I can go ahead and uncheck that. And it's really easy to just turn those particular things off. But I have some other notes on this drawing. You see, I have this stamp part number on this surface, and it didn't actually get ballooned. Well, that's because it doesn't meet my note extraction criteria. Well, that's okay. I can easily go back in to my settings, and I will go ahead and change this, and I will add in a special text here that says, or anything that starts with the word stamp, and then star is used as a wildcard. So this essentially is telling it anytime it sees a note with that starts with stamp, it's going to go ahead and balloon it. And we're going to see there it goes. It goes ahead and balloons it, and it adds to my list. So customizing this to get your specific, the way you detail your drawings is going to be really easy. So if I go down here and I click on this surface finish dimension, we can see that there is a characteristic for it, but it didn't add a balloon for this. That's okay. I can easily go into my balloon document, and I get to access my balloon settings. And there's actually a lot of really great stuff in here. So the first thing we're going to see is it asks us where we want to put the balloons. It actually assigns those to a particular layer so that we can easily turn them on and off, since this is our regular drawing. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you something with that later. The next section here is how the balloons show up here. So my default right now, regular balloons are circular. I can add a prefix in there or anything if I want to. And then if I have any kind of key characteristics, the really important ones, I can add a prefix to that as well. And I'm going to keep it circular. And then the last section here is where we actually specify, if I'm ballooning something, do I want it to add a balloon by, or do I want to add a balloon to it by default? So surface finishes is unchecked. I can go ahead and check that guy. And then these X and Y numbers here are actually where the balloons show up by default. So that's what these numbers here mean. So I'll go ahead and hit the green check. Once again, we're going to see the software goes ahead and automatically adds that other balloon in there for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go around and readjust my balloons. So you got to remember, the default location might not always be ideal. So I'm going to have to do just a little slight adjusting depending on, how our dimensions are laid out. I think that looks good there. And move that one right there. And okay, so that all looks pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with that. And now what I'm going to do is my geometric tolerances, I want to go ahead and make sure I change those. I want these to be key characteristics, and I'm also going to I want to change the inspection method. So right now, actually, if we look at the inspection or the method, nothing's listed right now. So I need to go ahead and specify my default method. So if I right-click all the way up the top where it says Sheet 1, I can go ahead and specify the default method for everything. So now we can see, everything says digital caliber. So for break all edges, that is obviously going to be a visual check. So will this guy here. So I'll go ahead and change that. And let's see, I know this is going to be a CMM, so let me change that. And this is going to be key as well. And this is going to be CMM. Okay. So I'm essentially done with my drawing. So now I'm ready to export this guy. And lucky for us, there is an export to PDF already here for us. So I can go ahead, export to PDF. I'll go ahead and add a suffix here. So then I can go ahead and open that guy, and you're going to see that that is very similar to, there it is. It's very similar to the other drawing. And then if we go back, so right now the balloons are still on, but I want to be able to print this drawing. As I mentioned, it's assigned to a specific layer. If I go down here to my layer properties, I can go ahead and just turn that off, and now I have just my standard drawing that I can access, and when I want to bring that back up, I can turn that back on. Okay, so that was the balloon drawing. Now I actually want my report, so I can go ahead, export to Excel, and it comes with a bunch of default templates. There's the AS9102, which is big in the auto industry. There's the PPAP process performance sheet. All these nice little defaults. Let me just show you one of these real quick. So I go ahead and export that, and you can see it outputs everything in that particular format style. But my company has its own way that it likes to do inspection ports. Well, that's actually an extremely easy process using SOLIDWORKS Inspection. Let me go ahead and export to Excel. I'll go ahead and add my own template in here that I've created. And let's see, I'll go ahead and check that guy. And just like the report that I showed you earlier, this is something I created on my own. I put my own columns in there, the properties that I want in here, and this all happens to be done right here in this template editor. So I'll go ahead and hit the Launch Template Editor. I pick a document that I want to open, and then we get to see, how we can enter specific properties. So, I can pull specific properties from the model here, properties from a drawing, and then specific properties related to that particular characteristic. So essentially, I can add anything in here. So if I wanted to, insert a column in here for a key, if it's something key, I can just go ahead and add that there, and then let's see, put key, insert, and now I have a column that will be there specifically for, if I want to label that is a key dimension or something like that. So this customization, making the reports, is a really, really easy process. Okay, so we've got my custom report, and I'm done at this point. But then, you guys saw that I did a bit of a manual process there, entering my default tolerances. I updated the node extraction criteria, did some balloon setting changes. We don't want to be doing those all the time. Well, I mentioned earlier that we can start out with template. There's templates. Well, I can go ahead and make a new template if I want to, based on all the settings that I just made. So I can store all that stuff. So now for any of my future my future drawings are going to end up having all the same settings. And then, if I have different ways that I inspect certain things, I can have different templates for that as well. So it's all great that I can go ahead and just store all that information and save that then. All right, so balloon drawing, inspection report, they're all done. I am now ready to inspect my part. And so I'm going to hand my balloon drawing and my inspection report to the inspector, and he could print it out, and he could, handwrite all these in here, or, could type them in like I have here, and, we get this nice little conditional formatting where if it's good, it's green, red means bad, those types of things. So that's all really great, but that's not, the other option that we have is right here. It says export to SOLIDWORKS Inspection Project. So what this does is it allows me to open, and view all the same information in the inspection standalone software, which is this guy right here. For those of you who are not familiar with the standalone software, it's actually very similar to the inspection add-in for SOLIDWORKS. It allows us to create balloon drawings and inspection reports for any CAD software, but the process is actually going to be slightly more manual. Let me go ahead and open this guy here. And so, I just want to point out that the word standalone in the context means that you do not have to have SOLIDWORKS installed, already installed on your computer to use inspection standalone. But standalone and network licensing still work in the same way that they do for other SOLIDWORKS software, regardless of whether you're using the inspection add-in for SOLIDWORKS or inspection standalone. So just want to make note of that. I know some people have gotten confused about that, but so then your question is, what's the advantage? Why am I bringing this into the standalone software? Well, when we combine the standalone software with a license of Inspection Professional, it actually allows us to enter data, enter results directly into a project. So that's what I have right here. I have my measurement input section, and I can start, typing things, which is very similar to the, if I was typing them in Excel, I can have the conditional formatting and everything like that. But the other advantage here is, I can also, if I have like a digital caliper hooked up to my computer, I can go ahead and hit the take the measurement, hit a button, and it's going to automatically fill in this column for me right here. So, you're not accidentally, leading to the possibility of typing something wrong in here. Also, I have a CMM Data Import tool here where I can actually take a whole bunch of measurements and load those all directly into here to actually fill multiple columns. And the whole goal, when you're using, the SOLIDWORKS inspection software is that, we want to minimize the manual processes. The less manual things that, people have to do, the less possible chance we have of making errors. And the other big thing here is, I can essentially store all the inspection information right in here. So, I'm entering results for multiple parts. I can even, let me fix that, there we go. I can even rename these specific columns to, specific serial numbers. And let's see. So I have all these columns. I'm adding more columns. I have all this information here. And then the big advantage is if your quality inspector wants to do any kind of analysis, I can easily just go ahead and export all this information, and then someone can go ahead and do like statistical analysis on on all this stuff, and I'll be able to track why specific dimensions are why they're failing, or what's going on with them. So that's pretty much the entire inspection process, and you'll see. that when you're using SOLIDWORKS Inspection, it's taking as much of the manual process out as possible. Isolate, putting everything right into the software, so you essentially have to never write anything or maybe even type anything. That's really the goal of SOLIDWORKS Inspection. Okay, so Dan, that's about it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for running through that, John. It looks like we have a question. Charles, would you mind typing your question into the question box? And we can certainly get that answered for you promptly. And I guess if we want to switch slides, John.
Yeah, sure.
That would be awesome. And yeah, I guess just in closing, we'll pause right after this for questions. I saw a couple hands raised earlier on. It looks like there were a couple questions. So again, if you do have them, please type them into the question pane, and I'll cycle through them, and we'll get them answered here in the last remaining minutes of the webinar. But just kind of in closing, to summarize, obviously we kind of went through most of this, and John did a really great job of demonstrating some of this. So obviously highlighted the typical inspection process, the manual process versus using a tool like SOLIDWORKS Inspection. We created a detailed balloon drawing, as you saw, created an actual inspection report using the SOLIDWORKS Inspection Addin, and obviously walked through and demonstrated an actual part inspection process. So hopefully you guys found some value in this, and we appreciate you joining us. In terms of competition, we've been asked about competitors and competition to something like SOLIDWORKS Inspection. The answer to that question is that there certainly is competition. As far as differentiation, from some of the research that we've done, we've found that there isn't any true integrations or add-ins for SOLIDWORKS. So obviously a huge benefit to using something like SOLIDWORKS Inspection for your inspection and report creation is the ability to still continue to work inside the SOLIDWORKS environment that you're more than familiar with already at this point. So just wanted to touch on that very quickly. Again, we'll take another 30 seconds here if there are any questions. And it looks like we have one coming in here. Let me just make this box a little bit bigger. John, can you see that okay? Let's see.
Yeah, I can see his question.
Okay. Yeah, we apologize, Chuck, for the audio issues. Certainly out of our control. Apologize for any issues with the sound. Apologize for that. Just ran a sound test and the problem. Okay, so it sounds like that's mostly just around the audio. Again, we apologize for any audio troubles throughout the webinar. Try our best to combat those, but there's not very much we can do. We'll see how this webinar turns out in terms of when we archive it. Certainly we did record it. So if there are any other questions pertinent to what we had covered today, again, we'll hang tight for another 30 seconds here if you guys have them. And again, Chuck, my apologies for any of the audio issues. We certainly try our best to make this as clean of a process and as easy to hear as possible. So again, my apologies for that. I think I saw a couple hands raised a little bit earlier, if I wasn't mistaken. Let me see what we have here. Can letters be used in place of numbers?
I think that's something I'm gonna have to look into. I actually haven't done a whole lot of messing around with that. But if you can, you can go ahead and you can see Dan's email right there. Go ahead and send him an email, and I'll make sure to follow up with you.
Yep, we'll certainly follow up with you directly. If you want to shoot me a quick note, we can look into that and get you a pointed answer. Appreciate the question. Definitely a great question. So we can take that offline and get your answer or your question answered offline. Absolutely. Great question, though. We appreciate it. Any other questions that we can get answered for you guys this afternoon?
Looks like we got another question. Andrew,
email list, can you see that, John?
Yeah, he's asking if the webinar is going to, an email is going to be sent out for the webinar, and yes, I am recording the webinar, so it'll be sent out to everyone that if you follow up with Dan or any of our marketing people, but I'll make sure that an email gets sent out that this is is available for you guys too.
Absolutely, and that's a common practice for us, everyone. We typically do record all of our webinars, and we get them archived relatively quickly. So it looks like there is a common theme with the audio issues, so we certainly do sincerely apologize for those. Once we do have the recording up, everyone that did attend this webinar and also registered will receive a recorded version. So certainly keep an eye out for that. And, once again, we apologize for any issues you guys have had with hearing the presentation this afternoon. So if there aren't any other questions, allow us the chance to thank you again for taking the time to join us. No, it's not easy to carve out some time in the afternoon, but hope you found some value in the presentation. My contact info is included in this slide here, so any questions you have on anything you saw today or anything we didn't cover that you were hoping to kind of get some insight on, certainly don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email. John's information is very similar to mine, only his name's different, so don't hesitate to reach out to him. And thank you again for taking the time this afternoon. I hope you all have a great weekend and an even better holiday. Thanks again so much.